And we're back. Hello, everyone. And for those that are in the chat, welcome again. And hopefully, you will find this new case interesting. For those of you watching later or in the background, if you have questions later, please, don't go right ahead and hit my comment section on the back of any video. Because we're going to start on this new case. It's already a year old, actually. But let's just get right into it. Let's just get right into it. We're going to be talking about Madeline Kingsbury, her disappearance in homicide, and the case against Adam Fravel in Minnesota. It's a it took me a while to get all of this together. I had wanted to bring this forward for quite a few months now, and there's been talk going back about doing some collaborations with a few people and all. But it's getting to the point where Adam Fravel's trial's coming up, and I want to at least get a base on what's going on with this, so we have a foundation going forward when we start talking about hearings and things like that. That is the lovely Maddie, as those that are familiar with her in her hometown, her friends, her family, and most of the media has referred to Madeline Kingsbury as Maddie, Maddi. Um, Madeline Kingsbury, pictured here with one of her children, in which I've blurred the face out, in her the father of her children, Adam Fravel. On the morning of the 31st of March last year, Madeline Kingsbury, at 26 years of age, dropped her two young children off at their daycare in Winona, Minnesota, with the father of her children, Adam Fravel, and she was never seen or heard from again. Now, missing persons is common, but in this particular case, people noticed that Maddie Kingsbury was missing right away. She was very active with her friends and her family. She messaged them during the day a lot. She talked to her family. She talked to friends. She was busy. She had work. She worked from home. She also worked, she did some of the work at home and some of it on site. She had to do consultations and things. She was missed right away. On the morning of the 31st, later that actual morning, a friend called the police to say that she thought something was up, that they had not heard from her. The day of her missing, the very first day, they called Adam Fravel, and he said he hadn't heard from her since he dropped the children off at daycare, and that she was supposed to pick up the children from daycare, but she had not, and he had not heard from her, so he went and picked up the children from daycare and drove them to his parents' house a couple of towns over. He said he had been messaging Maddie back and forth, but she had not responded. They did a wellness check in the house and nothing seemed to miss. There was no one there. Okay. And the children seemed to be fine. All right. So they just took the report and they started. But more people got involved within the next couple of days. Okay. Adam, during my research in the filings with Adam Fravel, in the indictment and the affidavits, um, we now know that he did have a conversation with a friend who said, like, well, why did so and so report her missing already? It hasn't even been 24 hours. Adam didn't seem very concerned right away. More of that story. You see, Maddie Kingsbury and Adam Fravel, until that day, lived together. And they co-parented. Maddie had a full job. Adam did not have the income that Maddie had coming in, and it seemed that Maddie was responsible for a lot of the bills. It came to light that they were breaking up, that they were in the process of a breakup and looking for new residences, both of them. This came in forensic, looking at the cell phone messages, the text messages back and forth, in the data, the footprint that we all leave, on our transactions prior to an event happening. That she had notified the landlord for where she rented currently on the 31st, that she would be looking for a new place and would probably be out in May. That she had another place in mind. They knew that their lease at this place was not going to be renewed. It came to light that they were having some financial trouble. Well, that's a little ahead of the story. In the first couple of days, there was a massive search for Maddie. The police went to Maddie's home. And what they discovered in Maddie's home was that her jacket that she wore to drop the children off was there. And so was her purse and her cell phone. In her vehicle that she used to get back and forth was in the driveway. The laptop she used for work was there. So the statement that Adam gave them, that he thought perhaps she just got a ride to her consultation, well, the police thought that was odd, since she would have needed her work laptop to do that, or her purse. Later, it was discovered all of these things belonged to her. But the house was cluttered, but nothing seemed amiss. They organized searches. The family themselves were so concerned that it's so out of line for Madeline not to be concerned about her children, not to have picked them up from school, not to have been in contact with her father or her friend that she talked to several times a day. Okay. They started a missing persons campaign everywhere. They started a number to call for hints. The family put together a $50,000 reward in this small community of people who all came together for Madeline Kingsbury, looking for this young mother who just vanished. Just vanished. Her last text message was at 8:15 to her friend. At 8:05 she dropped the children off. At 8:15 she texted. And that was it. Forensics said that there was nothing else coming out of her phone after that point at all. They're looking everywhere. Over 2,800 people volunteered in a 2-day weekend with four different shifts, two each day, morning and afternoon, to cover areas all over, looking for any evidence of what could have happened to Madeline Kingsbury. The police, after speaking with Adam Fravel, had advised him it would not be very good to be out with everybody. It could be distracting if he was in the search parties. Or that is Adam's statement anyway. We did not hear from Adam Fravel publicly until 12 days into her disappearance. The amount of people that got together, that volunteered their time and their effort, the police were all over. They searched such a wide area, very large areas of the whole county, with the volunteers, with dogs, in different sessions, putting up posters. The poster that I showed was a billboard that people had all over their yards. They had them in businesses. They had it everywhere. This became quite the case because with the discovery that her phone and her purse and her jacket were all inside the home, this was a person at risk. They thought that she was abducted. They thought that something must have happened to her. This was an at risk missing person now. And the police were very involved, very aggressively looking. It was on all of the news. The news picked it up. It was in every paper. It was every day on the news. Where is Madeline Kingsbury? The family was petrified, of course, and so were the friends, because it's not like her to not be with the children, to not check in with anyone. They knew something must have happened. Something must have happened. It was totally, she must be incapacitated to not get in touch with them. While Maddie was missing, around 12 days or so, in the meantime, Adam Fravel had his two children, ages 2 and 5, a daughter and a son. He had them with his parents, okay? But in the meantime, because of some domestic abuse claims that were going on, uh, Madeline's friends were very concerned in giving statements to the police and to concerned county children's services that Adam Fravel had been violent with Madeline Kingsbury in the past, including a witness who says that while she was on a video call with Madeline, Madeline was holding her child, and Adam came in and asked her to be quiet, and she said something, and he smacked her across the face in front of this person who he didn't know was on the video cam at the time, while she was holding the child standing there cooking dinner. It smacked her very hard across the face. The person yelled out on the other side of the phone, and he left the room immediately. Um, he was not aware the person was there, and when he did it, um, several people came forward, including the family, to say that they were worried about the children. That if something had happened to Madeline and they weren't sure, but of course, as is very common, the police and the family were looking at Adam Fravel right away. He was the last person known to be with her, with the children, dropping them off at the daycare. He says that they drove back, and she said she was going to attend a video meeting on her laptop and then leave for work. But she didn't. He said the last time he saw Madeline, he being Adam Fravel, was when she went upstairs to take to her office to do her video conference. Well, her laptop wasn't upstairs. While Madeline was missing, Adam Fravel filed for custody of his two children. A Winona County judge denied his petition, ordering that the children stay with their maternal grandparents until everything was settled. Because Adam Fravel had become a person of interest in the investigation for this investigation of missing person, Madeline Kingsbury, a likely suspect. Since the parents are now caring for her, okay, they also did get temporary custody until all this settled. And I want to just say that the parents do have custody. These are the parents. This is David and Kathy uh, Kingsbury. They do have current custody of the children, and the children are with them until this matter of trial gets settled for Adam Fravel, because he did quite go from a person of interest to the actual accused. But we'll get there. Maddie grew up with her father, David, and his wife, Kathy, helped raise her since, starting in 2008 when Maddie was just a child of 12. They're caring for the children since about April 4th, 5 days after Maddie disappeared. And David and Kathy both retired from their jobs to dedicate themselves to caring for the children full time. And also, Maddie's biological mom, Krista, is allowed to visit with the children, the grandchildren. This is Adam Fravel leaving after the custody when he was denied custody in mid-April. Now, there were statements that were made around this time. Adam Fravel did not come out until 12 days of her being missing. Okay. Um, the statements from both the family and Adam are quite different. And I'd like to read the statement that the family put out first. Okay. Um, trying to explain, how hard the having your daughter missing was to them and what this experience was like, because like all through April they still had no word of Madeline, even though searches were still going on. they called off the group searches with the volunteers because they had covered every area they possibly could. And now the police were doing concentrated searches based on tips that they received and based on forensic evidence and, you know, uh, technical information they may receive from the devices, from the cell phones, and etc., email communications, etc. But the family put out this statement, and it kind of really kind of spoke to what was going on at the time in April of 2023, just a few weeks after her initial date of missing on March 31st. Nothing in life prepares you for this. The disappearance of our daughter and sister has been a walking nightmare with no respite. In the days and nights since Madeline disappeared, the immediate family and extended family have collectively and individually been experiencing emotions and trials that someone who has never been suddenly thrust into this horrific situation could ever imagine. Eating is a mechanical act we force ourselves to do in order to keep our strength up so we can continue to advocate and search for Madeline. Sleep, if it comes, is fitful and fleeting. I have to think that the only thing that could come close to what we experience is the stress of combat, day after awful day. Initially, we were so overwrought that we couldn't bear to look at each other, but couldn't bear to look away. There were no words we could say to comfort each other, and we felt alone and frantic. In the days since the family has circled the wagons and gathered from near and across the world, we will find Madeline. This is our mission, and we will not falter. And then he went on to say that although they were private, they welcomed everyone since they were now in the national limelight, that they were very grateful for the support they received for those that cared about finding Madeline in making sure that she was either reunited for her children and that reunited with her children, or at least answers could be received. They went on to say how much they were going to continue and that they all loved everyone coming together as warriors for Madeline in gathering around and supporting, in that there was the $50,000 reward out there, that they appreciated all the tips and all of the people working together, and that all information was valuable and for everyone to come forward with anything that they knew. His last words were that from his sister on this Fox News. This was around mid-April when they did the press conference. And Megan Kingsbury, Madeline's sister, said this: Maddie is very bright, kind, and hardworking and giving. She is a wonderful mother of her two children, and she never judges me or anyone else. She accepts people for who they are. We just want her home. Adam's statement, on the other hand, was a little different. Adam Fravel, after 12 days of silence in regards to the mother of his children being missing, came out with a statement after the pressure on April 12th that said this: Over the course of the last 12 days, my family and I have been subject to a myriad of accusations regarding the disappearance of the mother of my children, Maddie Kingsbury. During these last 12 days, I have cooperated with law enforcement at every turn, including sitting down for multiple interviews with Winona County law enforcement. I did not have anything to do with Maddie's disappearance. I want the mother of my 5-year-old and 2-year-old to be found and brought home safely. I want that more than anything. Law enforcement advised me on April 2nd that they would not recommend that I attend the press conferences or that I assist in the searches due to safety concerns. However, my non attendance and silence has been inferred by many as a sign of apathy, or worse. That could not be further from the truth. I want Maddie home and for her to be able to be with our two children. God bless the Kingsbury family and please bring her home safely. That statement was released by his attorney, Zachary Bauer, um, of Mish Bisher and Spence back then. Zachary Bauer, I believe, is not his current attorney. I think that might have been the one for the custody. I'm not sure. All right. As the investigation continued into Madeline's disappearance, we come now to June. Let's just say that during April and May, there was the custody. There was still searches going on. They received many. This received 450 tips that they checked out. They had 3 conversations in the beginning with Adam Fravel on March 31st and on April 1st and on April 2nd, uh, into which he gave information about his travels. Okay. I want to talk about his travels a little bit before we talk about the discovering of the remains. When we talk about his travels, he talks about loading up things for because they were moving that needed to go into storage from the house, and he had relayed all this information to the police willingly as they were discussing the missing Maddie. That he couldn't get in touch with her. He said that he had let her know that he was going to be going back and forth to his parents and to the storage unit. And he laid case, and he did have several messages back and forth, or actually to Maddie's cell phone in regards to how he was doing this and what he was doing. And then he came back and picked up the kids. And the reason I say that is because he had the vehicle with the things in the timeline that he gave the officers in his interviews do go along with going back to his parents' house and back along this Highway 43. His parents live off Highway 43, not very far. And also the storage unit, which was a little the other way. And all of the time frames pretty much settle in, that they're not really out of whack in any way. That he could very well. But they also made note that his phone was often offline during that period, which they found out later through records. Okay. On June 7th, remains were found, suspected to be Madeline. Okay. And this is the Winona Police Department announcement that came out 18 o'clock that night. A Fillmore County deputy found remains on Wednesday afternoon north of Maybelle, Minnesota. Maybelle, Minnesota is where his parents live. The body was found in some brush off Highway 43 and was located using information generated during the Madeline Kingsbury investigation. Because of this, law enforcement personnel have arrested Adam Fravel on probable cause in connection to her disappearance. Numerous members of the Winona Police Department, the Winona County Sheriff's Office, the Fillmore County Sheriff's Office, the Southeast Minnesota Violent Crimes Enforcement Team, Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension agents, and crime scene personnel in the Southern Minnesota Regional Medical Examiner's Office are working as quickly as possible to positively identify the remains. We are asking the community to respect the family's privacy and not to speculate on the case until further information is made available. And we will share an update tomorrow once we have more information confirmed. And then they said to the media that they were planning a news conference the next day in the Winona City Council chambers, which did occur. And they were going to announce that time and conference. But what happened after that is that they did confirm that the body was that of Madeline Kingsbury on June 8th. And that was part of that press conference. And that they had arrested Adam Fravel. An autopsy a few days later was released, which said that the cause of death was homicidal violence. The body was found wrapped in a gray fitted sheet, tied up with black gorilla tape. In the indictment, when they come up and why they feel that they had probable cause in arresting Adam Fravel is that, well, in regards to the sheet, there was an air mattress with a sheet missing in the home of Kingsbury and Fravel residents, and on it were gray pillows of the same nature of the sheet, even though the sheet was missing from the air mattress. also was found in the home, the same width and type of gorilla tape. Just to make note of some of the evidence notes. Just to go back to here we are. On March 31st, Madeline is reported missing. On April 5th, the case gets called suspicious by Winona PD, meaning they don't think she left on her own free will, based on her purse and her phone being there and her jacket, based on the statements that Adam Fravel made, because also during his conversations with law enforcement, he dropped a little nugget that Maddie met some gentleman. He doesn't know how long she's been seeing him, but she was moving on. None of her friends would concur that. They said, yes, Adam and Maddie were breaking up, but they were breaking up because of his anger, because he had laid hands on her, in financial strain, etc. They were breaking up, but it wasn't because of another man. On April 7th, they had that massive search party. That weekend, I told you about 2,800 people, 2 shifts each day on the weekend. On April 12th, Adam Fravel addressed the public. And in the meantime, he was trying to get custody. He started filing for custody and started motioning. And also, the family was pushing to keep custody and saying that they had concerns and did not want to turn the children over to Adam Fravel. For instance, when social services went to Adam Fravel's parents' house to see the children to do the welfare check, he wouldn't let them see them. He picked up his child, went in the house, and was cursing expletives. He would not have anything to do with them. He wouldn't let them check on their welfare. He acted contrary to the process. And I can understand people don't want to be second guessed about the condition of their children or anything, but the children's mother was missing and a report was made and has to be checked out. It doesn't do you any good to represent yourself badly to the people that are just doing their jobs. Well, he did act a little odd about the whole thing. Then tried, because of that, to get custody. But the parents of Maddie had also issued that they thought there was a concern there, that he was, the children's safety had to be put first. The custody battle went through. May 5th, they had a candle night vigil for Maddie. There was so many people there. It was all over the news. I don't know if any of you had seen that, but it was quite took over the news for quite a while. She was well loved, and people were still looking for her and praying for her safe return. On May 17th, the judge settled the custody battle because the parents had convinced Adam that they would have temporary custody until all of this was resolved, since he was arrested in the suspect in Madeline's disappearance. Actually not arrested at that point, but a suspect at that point. And once everything was resolved, they would go back to court. So they amicably did it. The judge thought it was the best thing, signed off on it, and temporary custody was awarded to the parents. Then May 17th starts the custody battle. June 6th, the day before the body is found, the judge denied Fravel's petition for sole custody, granting temporary custody permanently to the parents right now. Like, not permanently, but temporary custody to them. May 17th was when the custody battle started. June 6th was when, the day before they discovered the body, was when the judge actually came forward the day prior and actually said that the petition is denied for Adam Fravel and that she agrees to keep the children with the grandparents for now. On June 7th, Fravel was arrested after the human remains were found, even before the autopsy came back. The charges when he was arrested that day were murder in the first degree while committing domestic abuse with past patterns of domestic abuse, murder in the first degree premeditated, murder in the second degree, and murder in the second degree without intent while committing a felony, which would also be like the abuse. It looks like the way that they charged it was to give the jury the choice when there's reasonable doubt on the intent and premeditation part. They could say he did it with premeditation or without premeditation, but they're giving the jury a way to say he did it, if you know what I mean. When you read those charges, there's no other way to put it. Like they're just giving the jury a way to say, yes, you committed murder, but was it with intent or without intent? And was it during domestic abuse? Remember, the autopsy came back with homicidal violence listed. Nothing else. Homicidal violence. This is our judge, Judge Nancy Bidendorp. 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 Bidendorp? Yes, Bidendorp, if I just go by syllables. I apologize, George, if I've got that wrong, because you don't deserve the disrespect, because you got your hands full right now. Because what's going on right now, we know that there was an indictment, and for those of you that love to read indictments, there's a lot in this one. Here is a link to Adam Fravel's indictment, which has some interesting information in it in regards to, the complaint um, for the whole case. On June 9th of 2023, this indictment came forth. And it starts on March 31st, that at approximately 8:20 p.m., the Winona Police Department was contacted by a person who identified herself as a friend of Madeline, Jane Kingsbury, and the friend reported to police that she was concerned with the health and safety of Madeline. It's not unlike her to be, out of contact. Um, the friend said that she had gone to Madeline's residence, saw her minivan in the driveway, knocked on the door, and no one was there. Friend also told police that she was aware that Madeline was having issues with her significant other who lived at the residence, and the friend identified the significant other as Adam Fravel. So Winona police met the friend at Madeline's residence located, in Winona County. An officer knocked on the door. It was locked. He looked in the windows. No one responded. And the officer didn't see anything amiss while looking in the windows inside or anyone. Shortly thereafter, officers spoke with Madeline's father, David Kingsbury, on the telephone and learned that her family had also not had contact with her, and that they said that that was very uncharacteristic for Madeline, and they were concerned that she usually contacted family members or friends every day. So the Winona police officers tracked down Adam Fravel and spoke with him by telephone. And according to Adam Fravel in the conversation, he had not heard from Madeline either since early in the morning, and that she was supposed to pick up their children after she was finished working, but she did not. Fravel stated he picked up the children at the daycare and took them to his parents' residence in Maybelle, Minnesota. Later that evening, officers were able to conduct a welfare check inside the Winona residence and determined that no one was inside. The investigators had spoken to the children's daycare provider, who confirmed that both Madeline and Fravel were present when they dropped their children off at daycare on the 31st at 8:05 a.m. The daycare provider also confirmed that Fravel was alone when he picked up the children at the end of the day. On April 1st, law enforcement investigators obtained a search warrant for the Fravel Kingsbury residency. The interior of the residence was cluttered, but there did not appear to be overt signs of a struggle. During that search, law enforcement located what the investigators later determined to be Madeline's cell phone, jacket, and purse. They also located the laptop computer that the investigators determined Madeline used to work from home. They later obtained access to the cell phone databases, and it was determined that a text message was sent from the cell phone to Madeline's sister on March 31st at 8:15 a.m. Investigators noted that there was no subsequent text messages or phone calls sent from Madeline's cell phone. Law enforcement investigators followed up with conversations with Adam Fravel on the 1st and the 2nd of April 2023. And during those conversations, Fravel told the investigators that he had met Madeline at college and that they had had an on again and off again relationship for the past 7 years. He stated that they have two children, ages 2 and 5, indicated that Madeline worked from home and in Rochester. And Fravel stated that Madeline would generally travel to Rochester for work on Mondays and Fridays. And he did say that he thought she was going to Rochester after this video conference. Okay. And she would forward him money electronically to pay for the family bills. Fravel acknowledged that recently their relationship was not working, so they decided to separate and were in the process of moving out of their Winona residence. Madeline had been looking at different apartments in the area for her and the children to live in, and Fravel indicated that about 2 weeks ago, Madeline had told him that she had begun a relationship with another man, but he did not know how long the relationship had been going on. Fravel stated that on Friday, March 31st, he and Madeline dropped their children at the daycare at around 8 o'clock, and then they drove home. Once they arrived, Madeline stated that she had an online meeting and afterwards was going to Rochester for work. He indicated he saw Madeline go, downstairs, not upstairs, to her home office. I had that part. My correction. Also, during that conversation, Fravel has stated that he had planned to do property storage runs for most of the day that we talked about back and forth. And his plan was to travel to his parents' home near Maple, Minnesota, with items that he wanted to store at his parents' residence, and then return to Winona and take items to the Midwest storage located in Winona. Fravel indicated that prior to leaving for Maple, he had stopped at a gas station near his Winona residence, and he said that he had loaded up Madeline's van. He wasn't really paying attention to what he was loading. Fravel believed he left his residence and began driving the van to Mabel at approximately 10:15 a.m. This was all confirmed by in the gas station. They had video of it about what time he has. Like I said, they confirmed all of this. Okay. But in the meantime, with her being Mrs., they also had conversations um with Fravel and had brought to his attention that a friend had told him the story about how Adam Fravel had teased Madeline that she was going to end up like Gabby Petito if she didn't start, straightening out. And he admitted to being infatuated with the case, but that he was only making a joke. Um, he said that, it was just him making a joke about it. Mm. Well, the friend had already, gone to the police about this. They brought it to his attention and he kind of like laughed it off. Investigators spoke with a friend of Madeline who indicated that sometime prior in 2021, she was on the video call. And that's the incident I referred to you to, where he smacked her while she was holding the baby, cooking dinner in front of someone. And that this is where the perhaps violence and abuse allegations started to come up and why they became concerned for the children also. Okay. The friend also told investigators that there were several times during video calls that she had observed bruises on Madeline more than one occasion where she had no explanation for them. And then once she mentioned them, Madeline would cover them up with a sweater or turn away and would not discuss. Okay. They also spoke with family members of Madeline's, and during the conversation, family members discussed the same earlier incident. Said that she had learned Fravel had put his hands around Madeline's throat, that Madeline had told them about it, and the family member went with another person to go to Madeline's, and they visibly saw the red marks all over her neck that day, and she told them about the event. They, pursuant to search warrants, investigating officers conducted extractions of two Apple phones that believed they belonged to Madeline. A review of the forensic extractions of those two phones revealed Kingsbury as the owner and user, and there were messages as well as screenshots of messages between Madeline and Fravel dating back numerous years. And one screenshot was taken from around the time that they said that this happened between Madeline and Fravel. And this is what it disclosed in the actual message, and this is in the indictment link that I just dropped down there for you guys already. But there was one text message that brought them to the alert that, for these things of abuse and domestic violence were actually an issue in this case. and they became more concerned for Madeline when they read this. Maddie says, "You know, I'm not really okay with or over the fact that you put your hand around my neck and pushed me down in front of the kids earlier. So don't. I'm not okay with it, all, but especially with them there. Fravel, you'll adjust. Maddie, the fuck I will. Maddie, you do that again without asking me, and you can go somewhere else. Fravel, you got it, mother. Maddie, don't patronize me. That crossed the line. Fravel, then mind. Maddie, stop. Yeah, law enforcement took that one very seriously. They were able to obtain videos and security cameras with motion detectors and video devices at multiple residences and businesses located in Winona neighborhood where Madeline lived and along the route Fravel stated he took, which confirmed the traveling. Okay. They say at 9:45, Madeline's van was in the driveway, and they witnessed a person in a light-colored coat getting in and out. They assumed that to be Fravel. At 9:47, the van is still in the driveway. At 9:55, the person wearing the light-colored coat or sweatshirt got into the van while it was parked in the driveway of Madeline's residence. And then at 10 o'clock, the van's not there. This is when he said that he was going back, okay, and forth. They actually can put the van, there's a whole bunch of timestamps here in the thing that they put the van actually traveling the route, and it does go at 12:45. 45 minutes later, a van matching the description of Madeline's van is observed on a video from the same location traveling northbound on Highway 43 in the direction of Rushford and Winona. So the van did travel the route that the body was found on. Mm. And as I said, as part of their investigation, law enforcement traveled the same route Farrell stated, and they noted that with the exception of the 45-minute time period between the time he is observed traveling south of Rushford on Highway 43 and later at the same location traveling northbound on Highway 43, the times are all consistent with normal expected travel times between the locations. And then they talk about the discovering of the body and the identifying of the body as Madeline. Okay. The property, okay. Where the body was discovered is next to a public gravel road approximately 1 mile from Highway 43 between Choice and Mabel, Minnesota. Investigating officers learned that this property had been routinely maintained by one or more of the Fravel family members. The property was also near the residence of Fravel's parents. While searching the property, the deputy located human remains in a culvert adjoining the gravel road. The remains had been wrapped in what appeared to be a gray fitted bedsheet that had been closed with black Gorilla Tape. Investigators noted that during a previous search of Madeline's home, they observed a roll of black Gorilla Tape in what appears to be the same color and width as the tape found on and the fitted sheet that Madeline was wrapped in. Investigators also noted that the gray fitted sheet appears to be similar to other bedding at the Winona residence. Additionally, the air mattress from the Winona resident was missing the bed sheet, like I said, but on top of that air mattress were the pillows that had the gray pillowcases, very similar to the sheet. That's the indictment. A little bit more, though. We're not done. Let me just check you guys for some questions first before there's more though. There's actually more. He's arrested and he's going to have a trial. Absolutely. Hello, Deep State Annex and Aunt Jay. It's nice to see you back, and Shill and Jean. Okay. Okay. All right. I wonder if anyone from the Gorilla Tape Company has ever had to testify in court about their product. I wonder, like I do, but I guess if they found the same width and type, and then they can like, I guess there will be evidence in when we get to trial that it is from the same roll, because I guess they can match it up to be could possibly be the same role. But that's interesting. I don't know. I think he tried to have sex with her. She rejected him and he killed her. Yeah, that would go with the violence. They would probably just use a tape expert. Yes, I wonder if such a thing exists, a guerrilla tape expert. I mean, a little humor, not so humorous case. So this case actually gets me because she was young. And of note, I would like to say that they had been together for 7 years. The first night that she no longer let him sleep at the house was the night before she disappeared. He was basically looking for a new residence and she was looking for a new residence, but they did not share the house the night before. And that was the first time. And so I'm thinking that kind of led the investigators to believe that he did definitely had some issues about that. Jealous of the new guy, if the new guy exists. I have to see more testimony in regards to whether that new guy actually existed because none of the family or the friends spoke on it. Nobody does ever say, I want to be a tape expert. Exactly. Well, I mean, you could see why they arrested him right away when they found the body. Even before they identified it clearly as Madeline, they arrested him. It's because they already had the information about the tape and everything. And then they're like, what? Like they found it with the tape. They already had things from a search warrant, like observations, photos of the rooms and stuff to make comparisons. It didn't take long. And they had several people actively working on this case. So when the body was found and they had something to go by the bed sheet in the tape, of course, they went right to the evidence of the missing person's home, the photographs that they had taken to see if they anything similar. Plus, Adam was already a suspect in their minds. It's not. It's often the person closest to you when you disappear is going to be the suspect. He was the last one to be seen with her, and he did live with her. I was wondering if he made it up or if she made it up so she could avoid sex with him. True. I mean, either one of them could have. Like, I guess we'll find. It will be one of the things I have a note on to get an answer to when it finally comes to trial, if it comes to trial. I can imagine the take expert on the stand licks the roll. Yep, this roll was produced on February 8th, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. on machine 7. Exactly. Exactly. Like very precise. Very precise. Okay, so where we are now is that Adam Fravel is in jail. They set bond that he couldn't reach. Okay. When they got more into the text messages from the cell phones and they got more of the evidence, they actually upped the charges and increased the bail. Um, the way that everything is charged out there, it's like I said, it's like they're giving the jury the opportunity to say yes, murder happened here. Well, whether there was actually premeditation, they can't say. Whether it was just spontaneous act of an argument, um, during the one charge would relate to if during a domestic abuse incident he killed her. The other one would be without premeditation or intent in that he killed her, but he hadn't planned on killing her well in advance, but he did. Either way, he is the suspect in her homicide, and she's not coming home to her children. Where we are right now in the trial proceedings is with an omnibus hearing. In Minnesota, they like to do an omnibus hearing ahead of the trial. And it's kind of like pre-trial hearings We've had a few of these. So you guys in the chat that, you watch my things, you see the Daybell hearings and the Coburg hearings, Karen Reed. These are all motion hearings where the judge listens to both sides of what they want. And they're talking about, the evidence back and forth or things they think are going right or wrong and solving all the issues in the case before they actually get to trial, right? Well, an omnibus hearing is a way to do all of that without the back and forth of multiple filings and motions. You get together with all the sides in the room at the time and discuss all the issues at once. It kind of speeds things up. But at the other hand, it is a way to go over all the evidence also. But because they want to do omnibus hearing to make things easier to get through, and it's part of the process in Minnesota, listen, an omnibus usually set before trial after arraignment. They did arraignment. Okay. It provides an opportunity for pretrial motions and other requests to be considered by the court in one proceeding with a minimum of formality and filings. And it allows the court to dispose of latent constitutional issues. It also is for the defendant. It gives them the opportunity to make an informed decision as to his or her plea. They get to know the evidence against them before they decide to say guilty or not guilty. They get a good idea of what the case is like. Not a bad thing for the defense because deals could be made. The reason they do this, not only to speed things up if it's going to go to trial and get all these issues hammered out, but also to help negotiate plea deals. If everything is out on the table and everybody has a clear picture of everything that's going on, deals can be made and time and money can be saved. One of the best reasons to have it. But because you have an omnibus hearing, you can also contest the omnibus, have a contested omnibus hearing. So prior to your omnibus hearing, your attorney may file motions asking for a contested omnibus hearing, which Adam Fravel's attorneys have done. And we are in the process of that right now. We're having a contested omnibus hearings on the 18th and the 19th, and we're coming back in April for the third part. But some courts call it a motion hearing or an evidentiary hearing, which is kind of what's going on here, a combination of evidentiary and motion, or a Rasmussen hearing. Regardless of what moniker, the purpose of such a hearing is to challenge issues in your case prior to a trial taking place. Okay. So, on that, let me just pull myself up. We've had two of those hearings already. Okay. Oh, mm. Did I have the words up for the contested hearing? Did I just pull it down? Anyway, for what an omnibus or a contested omnibus is, because as we go forward, basically Adam Fravel's attorneys are contesting statements that he made in the beginning. Okay. They are saying that one of the interviews that they had, they were acting like he wasn't under arrest, so they weren't required to give him a Miranda reading. But he said that Adam actually felt like he was under arrest. I'll put the wording up just so everybody has it, and then I'll do the other slide in a second. Well, Adam felt like he was under arrest, so they should have. I don't know. But anyway, they're trying to get a couple of those interviews take out. They're trying to get seizure of his phone held out. Okay. But the statements. But one thing that they were successful in doing in the last 2 days, or yesterday, I do believe the judge came forward and she did seal grand jury documents, because what's going to happen next, because they're saying that the grand jury was not actually given enough information to actually do probable cause to actually say he might be guilty of this, that there's not enough evidence to say that he's guilty with this, so they shouldn't have charged him the way that they charged him. But in order to do that, they have to actually put out the evidence that they have, and some of that can be very prejudicial to the trial if it was made public. And so they don't want it out. And that makes good sense to me because, if they give you more information, the mass media is going to take over and there's going to be all these conspiracies and the people are going to make judgments on Adam Fravel. I would say it's pretty hard at this point not to make a judgment on Adam Fravel. It's been a year that he's, since the day before she went missing, it's almost a year now. Um, and I have to say, it's hard. It is hard for people not to make a judgment, just knowing that she's missing, just knowing that he had hit her in the past. That doesn't make her a murderer. It doesn't make him a great guy, but it doesn't make him a murderer. I mean, breaking up, having a relationship that doesn't work out doesn't make him a murderer. Okay. Well, anyway, he's allowed to contest this, and they are. But in order for all of that evidence to be presented, exactly what all of the transcriptions to the grand jury, the witness testimony, everything, all of those names, including, the grand jury people, all of that has to be sealed. And so they're going to do it under seal in April when they're going over all of the evidence so that it will not be a public hearing like they do have in Minnesota. Because this omnibus hearing on the 18th and the 19th, both of the 19th and the 20th, I think, they were both open to the public until they needed to seal all of this evidence. They can't go on. One of the other things that Fravel wants is a change of venue. Not only does he want the charges dropped because he doesn't feel he should have been indicted in the first place due to process, due to the evidence that is here. For they said if they don't have his actual interviews because of the lack of the Miranda light, then they wouldn't have gone forward with the indictment. I don't necessarily think that is true. She still was a missing person. They still had the photographs from inside the house and the evidence of her phone and her jacket and her purse and the pictures from inside the house. That was an appropriate search warrant. They would have got that search warrant based on the fact that she was missing alone and not on anything that Adam Fravel had said. So, for me, I'm a little curious as to where that part of it's gonna go. Not a lawyer, but it just intrigued me that they thought that one part of the interview would be enough to challenge to throw out all of the statements, and I really don't see where that's coming from because just because she was a missing person, they could have got the search warrant to go inside that house. And just because she was a missing person, they had every right to talk to Adam Fravel and didn't have to read him his Miranda light. He was the father of her children, the last person to see her alive. Of course, they're going to talk to him. So it's kind of like stretching it a little bit, stretching it. But to me, this part was fascinating. And this is why not only did I find the case was brought to me by a friend who was local to the area, and it really touched their heart. Like they watched the searches and they were all involved searching for her in part of the community. And so there was that personal connection to it that had me interested and I was following. Well, then when they start with how he's going to defend himself and coming up with contesting the omnibus hearing this way and having everything sealed all over, it makes me think there's a lot more here. It's going to be quite an interesting trial because I think the legal issues back and forth are going to be interesting. Trying to challenge things that weren't necessarily required, but they're using words like, well, he believed or it was inferred. But, when it comes to the law, the judicial process and everything, those don't really go over very well. It's not, Good job there, Rocky. I would definitely count it as a tech issue too. And I'm gonna pull up now the one for contested omnibus that I put up there. But definitely that's the process we're in now. Now there's one more date of this 3-day contested omnibus hearing that's going on, and that one is in April. After that, if everything doesn't get tossed based on the defense's motion to have the certain parts of the evidence removed, and as long as they feel that there's enough evidence to actually bring it to a jury still, it will go for then the omnibus hearing and we go through the whole thing, knock out the dates, get a trial date, okay, and handle whether the venue will be in Winona County. Now, Winona County was quite affected by this. So many people were involved. I guess it would be good to move the trial to another area for jurors. But then again, it was pretty all over the county and everywhere. And it was all over the news, like multiple states. And I don't see how they'll get away from it. I think it's more towards getting the right questions to the juror pool to weed out those that may have some bias about it, but not necessarily if they've heard about the case or they have particular feelings. But when you have small children involved that no longer have a mother and you start talking about domestic violence or that he wasn't taking care of things, they already were making judgments on him in the area because he hadn't spoke out until 12 days later, and then they didn't like what he had to say. He lost the custody of his children prior to his arrest. So people have feelings about it. People are going to say things and they're going to feel like it's just a matter of how far they take it as far as whether it affects them being able to critically look at the evidence to see if he's guilty or not. Mm. Well, that is where we are with that. So, hey, looks like that was a good call there, Rocky Couch. That was a tech issue, definitely. Oh, and you got a bingo out of it. Wonderful. Mhm. Thank you. Oh, congratulations. So, all right. Is there anything? First, I have a question for you guys in chat, if you would indulge me. Um, it is a heart wrenching story. Yes, and because it's a young mother with children. Well, based on just what I told you in regards to the sheet and the tape, and him being the last person in contact, do you think that's enough to seriously like indict someone for murder? Now they also have an autopsy that says the person that Madeline Kingsbury died of homicidal violence, not an accident. The other thing I didn't say was that when they found the body, it had a towel wrapped around the head and the neck, a knotted towel wrapped around the head and the neck, which kind of, to me, and this is me speculating, that kind of means intent. Nobody ties a towel around your neck if they don't mean to choke you. You know what I mean? I don't know. Hmm. Well, that's a good question. Why wouldn't he go home to check for her after picking up the kids? He may have. He said he took the kids to the statement was, and then I took the kids to my parents later. So he may have went back to the house with the kids and then left again. I'm going to have to look further into the evidence that gets listed out, which is sealed right now, for that. But it could be in the other statements that I have on file. But I'll find out. I'll find out. Mostly circumstantial evidence at this point. DA is going to need something stronger. Yes. How do you think that the text messages back and forth that were quite contrary? You could see that they fought a lot, and as she pushed back on him about laying hands on her a lot. Um, mhm. Yeah, I'm thinking the correspondence between the two of them in regards to how he poo-pooed whenever she complained to him about the violence and about how she felt about it. I think that's going to be um that's going to be a bone of contention with the jury because for me you can look at that both ways. Either he didn't feel that anything was that serious in and it was that serious, or it really wasn't that serious and she was just like being sensitive about stuff. And, it could go both ways. You could play it both ways in court, is what I'm going to say. Like the defense and the prosecutor, and I'm sure that they will back and forth about the conversations. There's also going to be a lot of talk about her state of mind. Um, Unfortunately, when something like this happens, it's common for the defense to go in on the victim because their client is looking kind of bad. And so right now there's a lot of support on the victim side here. She's gone. And for whatever reason, dragging her through the mud isn't going to bring her back. And it's not going to make him innocent. But it often happens. And there are people out there doing stuff like that, which is very distasteful. You know. Well, the text could show motive. Still, it isn't strong enough to indict. Exactly. But an indictment is usually all the pieces put together and with enough there. Remember, doesn't have to be reasonable doubt. It just needs to be probable cause, which means it could play out this way. Since the sheet does look like it came from the house, the gorilla tape does look like it came from the house. Obviously, the body is Madeline. Obviously, there was intent to injure and harm since there's a towel wrapped completely around her throat and knotted. Homicidal violence would mean that they saw some kinds of injury and bruising also. Text messages back and forth, them separating, him being the last one to see her, him using her van to take things back and forth. Because here's something that stuck out to me. In I could just be, pointing here just because, like, for no reason at all. And it could be nothing. But he did state to them that she said she was going to Rochester to work after her video meeting. So then why did he take her van? Why did he take her van for all of these chores? She said she was going to work to Rochester. Was she going to fly there? Because only a man who knows she no longer needs the van is going to take the van. Just saying. Just saying. I don't know. Does that sound like too big a speculation there? It just those two statements just didn't really gel with me. I was like, what? Like, wait a minute. You just told us that she was going to Rochester after the video call. That she told you that. And yet you just, while she was up in her office, you took her van? You don't think she was going to say anything about that? Like, you loaded the van up and took her van? You didn't take her to work? You didn't have another conversation with her about it? You just thought she was up in the office and you were just going to leave. But there were messages. He did do messages back and forth to her. She never answered, but he said, okay, I'm loading up the van. I'm going here. Okay, I'm going to do this. Are you going to pick up the kids? Like, he did make contact with her phone. He did. That went unanswered throughout. I guess trying to set up a timeline that, like, he was not really concerned with her being missing. He didn't even seem concerned that she didn't answer back, even though the history of their text messages show that she always responded. The text could show motive. Still, okay, yes, I did that one. Thank you, Jean. I hate folks who abuse others. That's how much I know. It's horrible. I don't like it either. I hope they find a neighbor's doorbell cam or something. I think, well, they do have them on cam, leaving the building, the times and all. That's all documented quite well already. They did get quite a bit of neighborhood footage and footage from businesses in the area. And the roads that he took are very well traveled. So the timeline that he says he took the van is all documented really well, except for this 45-minute period, which let's just put it out there speculatively. The prosecution is saying that's the time frame where he disposed of the body, and that him putting stuff in the van, this whole thing about moving stuff and everything like that, was part of him putting the body in there. for disposal. And that's what I mean. Like, if he knew she was going to work, why did he have her van? She never responded to him to say, "Oh, I got a ride. You can have the van for moving all that." Yes, that's a good idea. "Oh, that's okay. You're doing such a good job moving everything out for us. Thank you." Nothing. Got nothing back from her at all. At all. Yeah, I'll tell you. Anyway, they had searched the area where they found the body prior, but they said that the body was in particularly well hidden, that it was obvious that it didn't want to be discovered with what they did, but they didn't tell us how that was accomplished, which I'm thinking will come out in the trial later. Well, that was a lot to digest in one session, and I'm sorry that started late. But I want to know if you guys have more questions and what other information you would like me to delve up about it in the Discord. I do have a room for it, and there is the Minnesota case file. And I have the case file number for those that want the actual documents. I've given you the indictment. I'm gonna hold back on some of the text message stuff because if they're going to indicate in the omnibus hearing that that's all to be sealed, I don't want anything out here that's going to prejudice people of any ways. Like a certain amount of digging can get you things that aren't supposed to be out yet, and I don't want to put anything out like that. You know what I mean? Yeah. Oh, so on that, I think I'll go to wrap up if you don't have. I really appreciate you guys coming to here. I worked on this one for a couple of weeks. It was a lot to digest. It's quite emotional, the way the community responded to this missing person. And, people go missing too often, all the time, and just not enough attention is to paid. And I would say, like, anytime you get that little thing or comes across your social media that says, please share this because it's a missing person or an alert, just hit the button. You never know who's going to see it. In this case alone, 450 tips helped them lead them back to the Highway 43. Okay. Um, the tips and the people coming forward to saying, I don't want to speak ill about Adam, but there was some violence in their relationship. That helped the children. Okay. That made sure that the children were in a safe place. And I think that that's a good thing, you know, because even if he had no intent or anything like that, if they don't know for sure what his mental state would be when he was going to be arrested or he became more of a suspect as time went on, and the young children don't need to be at risk, you know. It's always upsetting. At least they're with family, okay? They're not in the system. And when everything's said and done, if Adam Fravel is not guilty of this, after going through the judicial process, he will be able to petition the court to get custody of his children. They are his children, and get visitation. Of course, he can't see them currently if he's in jail. Well, it is going to be, yeah, looks to be an interesting case for this for sure. It does. I think legally, especially with the process of how they're doing it with the omnibus, I think it's streamlined. In if it does go, if they don't overturn this evidence for indictment, so to speak, and the judge goes forward after these motions from the defense that is challenging the evidence that led to the indictment. Okay, should we go forward towards the omnibus and get through that procedure where they decide venue and all of that, and juror questions, and they go over the evidence here and there, what's in and what's out, and they do their discovery, it does fast track it. And we could actually be looking at a trial date for Adam Fravel this fall, which for the families and for justice purposes would be a good thing because it's been a year already. and the family could heal. To go through all of this, the omnibus hearings themselves, the families put out statements. They're baby steps towards the process. And though they were happy to be a part of it, to see and to hear that progress was being made, and that the prosecution was so diligently supporting Maddie, is advocating for her in her life and what was done to her and to get justice. Um, it is also hard because they have to go through the whole thing again. And so their healing hasn't started. And for many, the healing doesn't start until after verdict, until after sentencing, when all is said and done. And then they can start to put away the pain a little bit. And not that they will ever all the way go away. A parent should never outlive their children. It's it is very, very difficult. Mm. It is sad that it does take too long. It takes so long, but in the eyes of justice for the defendant also, to make sure that the right decisions are made, I guess the process does. But things do get bottled down. They do get very behind. Okay, but I think this omnibus hearing and even the contested part of it does help iron out a lot of the issues that can drag on and on and on. Like, let's go into like the Scientology cases, which, by the way, I'll be bringing up to date next week. Chad Daybell's trial does start on April 1st, and I'm covering it, but they're going to be doing jury selection, and I'm not going to stream anything to do with jury selection. A lot of it needs to be private. It's boring as anything. And we really don't care. We don't get to know who those jurors are. We're not going to see those jurors. We just know that those people are going to be selected. That should be over there. If something exciting happens in the tit for tat, I'll report on it, but I'm not going to stream it. It's not. So on Monday, I thought I would update the Trump cases, because I do have quite a few case requests from people in my DMs and a couple here in the chat to please, just do a brief update on all of the cases outstanding and where they're at. So I'm going to do that Monday night. And then on Tuesday night, I thought I would do Scientology, the three cases on Scientology that I am tracking, and that is Leah Remini's defamation lawsuit in harassment and racketeering. Also, Bixler's lawsuit, which is the three women in the Danny Masterson case who also have harassment cases against David Miscavige, Danny Masterson in Scientology and their organization in general. And also Jane Doe 1, who has another forced marriage, harassment, and etc. case against Scientology. All three of those are still on the table. There has been some movement in all of them that I want to talk about. But mostly I want to congratulate Leah Remini for going back to college at 53 years old and getting her associate's degree, and still not even deterred that it took her 3 years to do that. And it was hard. It's hard to go back to school. She's actually working towards her bachelor's now. Damn, that's impressive. Like, never stop learning. And like, go Leah. Okay. But anyway, I thought that I would bring all that. And I think that by Wednesday we'll have a jury and we'll start live streaming the Chad Daybell trial. Okay. Yep. Yeah. It's good and bad. You're right. It's good and bad. Better than rushing through things. Exactly. Like, me, I like to see it all in black and white. I usually look for more than three sources on any piece of information. Although lately I've been reporting a lot on the Tate stuff based on Twitter action going on in the social medias coming out of Romania, with those journalists coming back and forth. There are quite a few accounts that are bringing the information forward, but it is true that he did not get his Andrew Tate and Tristan Tate did not get their assets back, as they have broadly claimed all over the socials for the last 3 months. But since the actual hearing the other day, not a peep out of them about that. Nope. Nope. Because if it actually happened and they got it in writing, it would be everywhere, right? But they think our memories are short or something, that not everybody was watching it. All right. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I really I hesitated to bring a new case out because we're following so many. But I also know it keeps it interesting. To have different things. Not everybody likes to watch the same kind of cases for the same reasons. And this one does have a little legal twist in there too. And plus, just for Maddie Kingsbury and her family and for those children, I'd like to see some justice. I would like to see the system go forward once the way it should, like snag free. Yeah, I know. Rose colored glasses, like pie in the sky dreams there. I get it. But uh, I'm hoping that we will actually have this going forward to a trial before the end of the year so that the families can move forward and start that healing process, knowing justice was served. Yeah. Yeah, nothing wrong with mixing it up. I agree, Rocket. And thank you, Big. I appreciate the compliment. And Ugh, like I say all the time, anybody has any more questions about this case or any of the others that we're following or anything that you see, hit the back of my comments on the videos. I answer everything that I can. And if I don't have the answer, I will look for it. Will point you in the right direction because information is how we all make decisions, right? And that's all I want to do is put all the information out here the best that I can from good solid sources whenever I can. And yeah, we speculate and we talk about it a little bit, but I really want you guys all to make up your own minds about everything because that's the key to it, right? You get to look at everything and decide how you feel about it and which way it's going. And I'm just glad to share it with you guys because I still do like doing this the legal documents. I love to read them. I love to look at the cases and I love to see how things change and go forward. I really do. So on that, I'm going to end. And I will be back on Sunday with Juju and Mrs. Cassandra, hopefully. And we'll just talk about something else besides true crime. If they can stop me, because it seems like I'm very obsessed these days. There's so many cases going on. I can't stop my brain from doing true crime. Well, hey, Ricker. Good to see you. But anyway, on that, good night, everybody. Thanks for listening to me. And I'm available for questions. And hopefully I'll see you Sunday. And if not Sunday, then Monday or Tuesday. Okay. Good night, all. And thank you to my mods. Always so great. Thank you.